ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan, with silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucien, over at Sir Lucien Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello, sirs, sirzettes, ma'ams, mim, whatever. All of you.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Dogs, cats, kittens of all sizes.
Dogs playing with cats. The world's going crazy.
Yeah. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Welcome. We're a Dungeons & Dragons talk show, but we kind of talk about all things RPGs. Although today, I feel, will be a very Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft episode.
Releases next month.
Yes.
Week.
No, next week. Yeah. So it releases on the 18th, which if you do in-game stores, that's the day you can go pick it up. Mm-hmm. And if you do Amazon, I think they deliver it that day. So that'll be really
probably
cool.
In shipping by then. So yeah. Cool.
I'm excited for this book. There's been, I feel like, a lot of people got this book early, is what it feels like to me. Like, we've had so much information, but at the same time, there's been a lack of information, because I think Wizards of the Coast said, the PR team, I think, was like, we give you these books to, like, hype up the talk, but, like, you're not allowed to just, like, give everything away.
There's some etiquette here we want you to
follow.
And
Specifically, there was the Gaming Gang, I think, a while ago. They have a YouTube channel, and he was like really angry on Twitter that he didn't get the Candlekeep book. And so I was like, but he's notorious for just going through every page.
Here's
like
page one.
Huge HD shots of all of the things, so you don't have to buy the book. You could, I don't know, not that you would like scan his video, but it's everything in there. And so he didn't get Candlekeep, but he did get Van Richten's Guide. So I was like, what is this guy doing? But I watched his video, and he subtly at the beginning was like, well, now I'm not going to go through everything. And I was like, you got a talking to. And you're like, I still want to get these books, so I'll do what you say, Wizards of the Coast. So that was interesting to me. But
yeah. Best place to get angry, Twitter.
Yeah, isn't it? Get things done, apparently. So.
That's the other place, Reddit. Go get mad on Reddit.
Oh, well, Reddit gets mad at you, I feel. Like, that's...
Yes. that is true. But yeah, that'll be a Tuesday next week in your stores. It's been a while, probably since a lot of us. I haven't really gone to my game store hardly at all. Obviously, we're in the tail end of a possible global pandemic where things are opening up in different parts of the country. I feel like our governor on Monday or so is going to open us up finally. We're not going to stay closed down, shut down anymore. And Michigan's been kind of one of the ones on the forefront of shutting down a lot. So I haven't really done too much. I haven't gone too many places. It'll be nice to get back out and go to the local store and kind of, there was always these, it was like a Saturday thing I would do where I was just bored. It would be after the show, but I was excited. And then I'd take an hour and I'd go down to the game store, and I would just walk the board game area, or I'd walk the miniature. I'd walk
so much fun.
The comic book area, and there's just so much stuff going on in our store. And I imagine there's lots of those types of stores all over. And I just love that feeling. And I definitely miss it from, this whole year of us just kind of trying to stay safe and trying to stay in. So
it's funny. It's funny that you say like there's a comic book section and stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of those stores are like, I'm going to be a comic book store, but then you realize that there's money in selling Magic the Gathering, and then you just start picking up board games, and so now you're a hobby store, or vice versa. Like I want to sell hobby stuff because I like this hobby, but like, man, I could make a lot of money selling comic books. The main comic book store in my town is just comic books. They have like some Magic the Gathering cards.
They're just like, we're not doing it.
But like they only do comic books, and they're very successful. They're the most popular one in town. I think other ones have tried to start, but it's in order to compete with Captain Comics, you can't. And then our game store is the opposite, where it is very just games. Like they have lots of board games, lots of card games, lots of RPG stuff, minis and paints and stuff, but there's not any comics in that store, and I thought that was interesting.
That'd be my dream. I don't want to put our stores pretty nice. Wouldn't want them to go out of business. I wish them all the luck. But man, that's the dream, to have maybe your own game store right in downtown in a nice little spot of of a nice smallish town, but big enough that you can be successful and just have a great gaming community.
Do you like retail like that? Because
so
I think I like the idea of a game store, but I don't think I would want to run one.
Well, I've worked in a hobby store way back in the day, and it was fun working at a hobby store. I wouldn't say it's fun working at like a Best Buy or a Walmart or a whatever, but because you were going to stock some train stuff at the hobby store, then you still had hours to read stuff that was there or just answer questions that people are coming in when they want to talk about. Because the hobby store I worked at was more of like a lot of RC stuff, a lot of train stuff, a lot of model stuff, and then it did have a game and miniature area, but not comics or anything. And it wasn't a big gaming area, but that was still fun to just be in that kind of environment. It wasn't a terrible job, so I think I could.
Me and my wife went to the hobby store. This was like probably a year ago or so. It was before my son was born, and my wife, we have inside jokes, and one of them is she calls the Beholder the Big Trouble in Little China monster.
Right.
Because it's like kind of similar. And so she's like, do they have that Big Trouble in Little China monster? And I was like, oh yeah, it's like right here. And I like got her the mini and she was looking at it. And one of the employees of the store was just like, well, they're different. And he tried to explain it to all of them. And I'm just laughing like secretly. And Shannon's looking at him like, do you even know who my husband is? Like, he has a D&D lore channel. And she didn't say that, but she was just like, the nerve of this guy trying to like out nerd me. It was funny. So good. Okay, so Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, May 18th. We have new character options coming out. What are those new character options?
Well, they did do a video, so you can go over to Dungeons and Dragons video, and it had the lead rules designer and Jeremy, and I'm forgetting the other guy they were mentioning in the video. I just watched it like a couple hours ago, but for this book there was a lead rules designer that was not Jeremy Crawford or Chris Perkins, and he's been the one that's been doing all the videos and talking to like Greg Tito about the lore you should know. So you'll recognize his face. You'll probably remember his name. Somebody in chat will remember his name for us. And they talked about the new character options. So there are lineages that come in. This is the thing where you can do Dampiers, and we've talked about that, where your character was one thing, but then a lineage can add something to that and, modify that in some way.
I was once upon a time an elf, but my mother fell in love with a vampire, and now I'm this elf vampire thing.
Half elf, whatever it can be. Then there's
Did they
also
talk about like getting lycanthropy or something? Like, could you be like, is that a lineage? Like, I could be a werewolf.
I think it's in there because I think I saw Ted talking about it, but they didn't mention it in this video.
Okay.
But I think it's in there. I'm pretty sure it's in there. And they just said lineages, and they didn't go over all of them in the video. But I think if we looked at that one page where we saw the contents, I bet all of them are listed there. Just like dark gifts. They just mentioned dark gifts. They didn't say the ones you could get, but they're like a double-edged sword kind of thing. And they mentioned a couple of them, like a living shadow that follows you around, or you hear whispers everywhere you go. And there's some good things to that, but bad things about that. And there's another one where you see ghostly specters that you're the only one that can see them, and they can kind of communicate to you or scout for you, but it also makes it hard for you to talk to normal people because your eyes are always looking at all these weird squirming things. You're like, I've always thought like there's a couple of movies like that. You ever watch The Frighteners?
Yeah.
Where the one guy, he could see the ghosts, but nobody else could. Mm-hmm. And he could see all kinds of stuff going on around him. So he's trying to have a conversation with somebody in front of him, but then the ghosts are doing something weird. So he's constantly distracted. And I thought that was kind of this idea of it'd be a fun character to play where you are constantly distracted. You can't really have a good conversation with anybody because there's so much going on. But there is some positives to it because they can point something out in the next room and, point like danger, or they could, because you can see them and they can kind of pantomime to you some things. Mm-hmm. I thought that'd be an interesting way to have a character going on. But the idea was to have like a double-edged sword to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I don't know, having a character with that special ability, like, not dissimilar from a druid where it's like, can you go talk to the animals in the area and find out what's going on? But instead it's like, let's go to this creepy like graveyard and maybe the warlock can talk to some ghosts that are running around to find out what happened here 50 years ago or something.
Yeah, all the dead that are stuck here. Happen to talk to them would be pretty cool.
I love it.
So they talked about that. Then they talked about the haunted classes, which it's 2 haunted classes, which we've talked about before. And
the
then
Bard and
the
College of Spirits and
I forget the other one. They just
really
mentioned 2 haunted classes and 2 backgrounds. I just remember that. The background was like the haunted, and then the other background was, I think, the hunter or the hunted.
Okay.
So they were 2 that were kind of almost like a monster hunter or the one that's being hunted or haunted.
Oh, the undead warlock was the other one. Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea where it's like you have to go get something, like you're hunting something that probably is like uncatchable in a way. Or the other idea is like you're always on the run. So
right. And he was talking about, you might not know as a character what it is, and it might be only in the campaign that it's revealed, or maybe you're creating a character that does know that and has to deal with it while the campaign's going on. So there's a couple of routes you can go with. Work with your DM to come up with something pretty fun and cool and interesting on, how you can do those different ones. So definitely based on horror themed campaigns, definitely based on, you might be doing some Domains of Dread stuff. Could be interesting if they fit in other campaign styles. I could see them still fitting in a normal Tomb of Annihilation campaign you're running, or a Dungeon of the Mad Mage, campaign that you're running. Mm-hmm. I could see several of these still fitting into that.
Any like undead haunted house. I mean, and a lot of the mechanics that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, I think would be really fun, not to have all the time in a game, but for those Halloween one shots that your original group of characters, they're whisked away somewhere and we have to do some cool Halloween one shot. Right. I always thought that would be fun. So I don't know if this will apply to a lot of people's D&Ds, or if it's going to be another one kind of like, like Theros and Ravnica came out, and those had really cool mechanics of like working for a guild or working for a specific company. And I say this, but you're doing Acquisitions Incorporated, so it's kind of totally working out. But like, and then Theros had the deity stuff. So I could be a rogue, but still have cool powers from my deity as I like commune with them. As cool as those rules are, I don't know anyone that's using them other than I guess you with Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah, we're definitely using Ac Inc. And because I'm a cartographer in Ac Inc.
Yeah,
so we
but Ac Inc. is a little different from the Ravnica rules too, because that was more.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of like Ravnica was more leveling up in your guild, and then you get benefits because of that and resources because of that. Acquisitions Incorporated is kind of just like a funny joke. So yeah. I think Ravnica, if you're gonna put it in your campaign, you want your campaign to be about factions, right? Yeah.
And if you're building a campaign that's about exploration or a storyline you've come up with that they're going to, kind of loosely follow, but they have a main theme. Like your Rod of 7 Parts was really the adventures about the 7 parts of the rod, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You can go around and do a lot of stuff, but in the end, this campaign's about the 7 parts of the rod.
And if you don't want gods to be that powerful in your game, like I would never use the Theros system in an Eberron game. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Or even the Ravnica might not work there. The only way you would do it is you wanted to lean into a heavy faction game in whatever world you're going to do, because you, for some reason, a dungeon master or games master was fascinated in the factions that are happening in that world, and you're going to put your players into that. Then the Ravnica rules might come in. Or you want a heavy deity game. You want a game that's about gods fighting gods and champions fighting champions, and there's a heavy emphasis on the gods affecting the world. Then you might use some of the Theros stuff, even though it could be in any of these other worlds. But you have to almost lean into that automatically first, and then kind of bring it in. And then you're like, and a second part of that is it's an Eberron game, or a second part of that it's a Greyhawk game, or the first part is that. So I don't know. You're right. I don't know a lot of dungeon masters that are doing it. Ac Inc. is not the focus of our campaign. The focus of our campaign is definitely diving into the Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Yeah.
Act Inc. gave us a reasonable excuse to keep forcing us to go down and not give us really a reason not to just say, you know what, we've been far enough, we're done with this, and go do something else.
Yeah.
We have a reason to keep going.
I don't know. And not that I know everybody's games all over the place, but I thought that was interesting. Like, I think those are both really awesome tool sets. And in Tasha's, didn't they take the Ravnica like guild system and kind of, it's the same
patron. Then you got a patron.
Yeah, it's the same system, only it was
similar.
just patrons now. But I don't know a lot of people that are using that. So I don't know. I just, thinking out loud, thought that was interesting. So maybe this will become another one that's on the shelf, or you just pull it out when you need to do something spooky, because that's kind of what it is. You know?
Yeah, how many people are going to be using Domains of Dread in their campaign?
Well, and I mean, Ravenloft
kind of an offshoot.
Is insanely popular with its niche crowd. So I don't know. I wonder how many new Ravenloft people are going to be doing this. But like we always talk about, you know, my wife plays D&D with us, and like this would be her setting. Like this is 100% what she wants to play. Like creepy porcelain dolls attacking you, and like, you know, weird vampires and werewolves. Like that'd be so cool. And thank you, BK Dan, for becoming a member of the YouTube channel. That's very nice of you.
Welcome.
Yeah, so now there's some D&D or DM stuff I found in Ravenloft. We won't get into we're predominantly a Dungeon Master show. So I wanted to talk about cool DM stuff that we could use. Yeah. But if you are interested in things that are falling down, if you are interested in College of Spirits and the Undead Warlock.
That's your background.
There's lots of stuff to go check out. So, first of all, Vampiric Mind Flare is one of the monsters.
Just sounds scary, just saying it. Really.
Excuse me. The art for this is ridiculous, and it's super creepy, and I love it. They did a good job, so I just wanted to bring that up. But one of the new features with Ravenloft is curses, and now we've had curses in the past, but most curses, it's like, do you have a greater restoration? It's gone. Like, it unnecessarily makes me upset that lycanthropy is cured by a greater restoration. Because once they have said that, then they had to backpedal and be like, well, unless you were like, you know, born a lycanthrope or like a werewolf, or you were this.
Why are there werewolves?
Yeah, like why are there werewolves if it's really that easy? And greater restoration is also not, I mean, it's a high level spell, but it's not out of reach in a very magical world like Faerun. Yeah. So this is specifically like, here are some curses that you can get, and with those curses, you can alleviate the pain a little bit with a greater restoration. Like you could make it not affect you for a couple hours, but it's going to come back, and you have to do a quest to get rid of it, which is I think how most curses should work. I like that. And so there's a whole chapter about talking about curses, and that you can alleviate them with spells, but they don't go away until you figure it out. But some of the curses you could get, I liked, like vulnerability to a specific type of damage, and disadvantage on checks or attacks, which is a big one, but that's awesome. You can't communicate using a language. When you take damage, you take an extra 1d10 necrotic damage with that. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Like you're just always getting hurt. Or a monster stalks you, which is kind of the background that we were talking about, where you're always on the run. And
Jabberwocky.
Yeah, there you go. With your Vorpal sword, snicker snack. So I like those a lot, and I like that there's a quest associated with it, and they actually gave you a whole list of things to, how did you get this curse? And it's like, well, I stole a sacred magical object from a tomb, or I broke a mirror when I shouldn't have, or I don't know, there was like a whole list of like, here's some ideas. So don't just hand these out, but yeah. And even some of the curses were when you defeat said boss monster, with their last breath they curse you. And then it's like, well, how do I get rid of this now? Like his, killing him rather than keeping him alive or something was actually to your detriment. And I think that's interesting. So
I like those. Those are all good. And I think they add an element to the game that allows your players to stretch but as a dungeon master also gives you a chance to bring the superhumans down a tad.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're already running around as Superman practically. So any little edge you can get on them at this point, once they hit, 10th level and above, is good. And it adds flavor, I think, to the game.
Yeah. Anna actually in chat was just saying that she's hoping to find stuff in here to use for a Shadowfell game. And 100%, I think Ravenloft and the Shadowfell were merged in 4th edition, but I like them as separate entities. But I 100% think that they're mechanically very interchangeable, and you could easily take a bunch of this stuff and apply it to the Shadowfell, where different spells work differently or certain spells work differently because it is the Shadowfell. Like, I like that a lot. So
and I think we still need a Shadowfell book, though, or even a Feywild book.
Yeah, we don't have those. There's lots of really great stuff on the DMs Guild, though. But and honestly, the 4th edition DM or Shadowfell Gloomrot book is exceptional. Another one is fear and stress. So there was a list that you could do, but basically you're encouraging your players at the start of a game to come up with a phobia of some kind. Like, I don't like tight places, or I don't like spiders, I don't like whatever. And then when that fear comes up in, not in battle, but like while playing the game, if the player, if they react with their character appropriately with this fear, you're supposed to reward them inspiration. And I wish that this was more than just inspiration. I wish that there was like a mechanic, like when you are doing your fear appropriately, I give you, I don't know, like a D4 to use later to help you out on a roll or something. So it's this like encouraging role play is what I want. And I think inspiration was the idea behind that, is to encourage roleplay, but it has never really worked out for me because it doesn't feel like anybody really wants inspiration. They're never like craving it or something. And it's always, well, not, I guess craving it's a bad word, because you don't want them to crave it. You want it to be that like little extra, like, oh, I did a good thing. But I don't know. It's just something's weird there. But stress, on the other hand, is something mechanic that I really like. So again, if you see, this is another optional rule, but like if you see a spider and you are scared of spiders, you accumulate 1 point of stress. And stress is a separate bar that you just add numbers to. So it's like, I've got a point here and I've got a point here, a point here. And let's say you have 3 stress. Well, you're going to put a -3 to all of your rolls, your attacks, your ability checks, because you're stressed out. And you need to have a safe night's rest in order to lower that stress to get you back down to 0. And that is really cool, because how often are you like, okay, we're going into a dungeon, and battle. Oh, we need to take a long rest. Battle. Oh, long rest. Guys, I think the boss is behind that door. Long rest, go in full power. And you're like, okay, but now it's, let me go down here. And it's like, okay, we're still at full power. We took a long rest, but I have 5 stress. That's a -5 to every attack I'm going to do.
Yeah. And sleeping in the dungeon is not
That's
safe.
not going to calm you down. Yeah. In the little bit. So it also, they say, there's some spells in D&D like calm emotions and stuff that could lessen the burden. So a lot of these spells that we don't use very often could come into play, which is really cool. A way to say, like, I'm going to cast this spell on you so that your 5 stress is actually 2 stress. And you're like, that's awesome. Really useful spell. Never touched it before, but that's really cool. So as far as like keeping you on edge, I really like the idea of stress. And it's such a simple mechanic too. I don't know. It's always the simple ones that get me, where I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I would love a role in there where you're making wisdom checks and then failing them badly, you're starting to pick up those insanity points. The very Cthulhu style of mechanic in the game.
Actually, very similar to Call of Cthulhu.
Have a hard time dealing with some of the craziness that's going on, because these are not normal. We're all sitting at our desk, rolling our dice, having a good time. We can think logically about what we want to do or whatever, but these characters are in some very crazy, dangerous, insane worlds, and there would be a toll on your psyche going up against mind flayers and beholders and undead hordes and hordes of undead. It's just like eventually that's going to wear on you in some way. And I would love that represented in the game. And I think sometimes Cthulhu does that kind of well. I would love
Cthulhu
to
does
see
that very well. Yeah.
Insanity mechanic in the game where stuff just goes bad, and you're having a hard time dealing with it. So
yeah, somebody in chat was asking us about the Bagman, which is a character that I didn't really know very well. So I actually just kind of Googled it. It looks like Polygon did a big article over it.
Wow.
But it's kind of like Slender Man.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, no, that would be a fun monster to have terrorize somebody, or kind of like The Ring, where like if you watch something, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I read this book, now I have to get somebody else to read this book. Actually, that would be a fantastic Ravenloft campaign. I just want to redo The Ring, only in like a medieval setting. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
The last one was Haunted Traps. And this was really cool because, I mean, we have thieves that can take out physical traps, and you have thieves' tools and stuff, but this is a haunted trap, so it's more of a supernatural thing than a physical thing. And from a magic standpoint, I like that, because maybe you could magically diffuse it rather than like, oh, I found the lever that causes this trap not to go off or something. And in it, there was rules about using the trap or finding the trap and how to disarm the trap, which that would be like a separate rules that maybe your rogue is not the best at. So, but yeah, and one of them is an example was like a mirror that erases your face and leaves you blind, deaf, and mute. So you look in this mirror and then you turn back to your friends and you're like, I can't see and I can't talk. I can't tell you how to get out of this, kind of a thing. Meanwhile, your face is trapped on the other side of the mirror. Really cool, like really fun trap.
Very scary.
So very spooky. Yeah. And that's the whole point, like I love it. So the more, this last week, lots of stuff came out. And I think we'll stop there. I mean, there's more to talk about, but I'm very excited for this book. So much so that I think maybe Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday night, I'll do my first like flip through on like, I'll just do a live stream, because I'm like, I don't know, everybody else does this. They seem fun.
Yeah.
And I just want to flip through it and like talk about it with people, because it looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the artwork. I'm interested to see how much content we're getting. It feels like we know a lot about the book. So I feel like you can make a good decision if this book is the one for you or for your campaign or your group. You're not going into it blind. Some of the other ones you might be taking a gamble a little bit to say, well, I kind of know what's in here, but I really don't. But in this one, I feel like you have enough that you can go out and make a good decision. It's sounding better and better. I may on Tuesday stroll down to my game store and pick up a copy, just because it looks like it has a lot of fun stuff in it.
There was a weird article.
So many domains of dread.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. There was a weird article about some company was like, it's the best book they've ever made or something. And a lot of people were like, no, like people I know who have it, they're like, no, but it's like, it's cool, but it's not like the best book. Somebody, or I think it was Nerd Immersion was saying that there's not stats for the Dark Lords because they want to keep them mysterious and unkillable. But that seems weird to me, because there were stats for the Demon Lords, the Demon Princes. And in Out of the Abyss, and then later on reprinted
Tiamat stats.
Yeah, Tiamat. We have stats for him or for her. So that was weird. I don't know how. I really want you to be able to save, Lamortia from the vicious monster Adam, and then that curse is it will always come back. Like, even though you've defeated things and you can now leave,
you'll find another.
Yeah,
Dreadlord.
Well, and it's like you defeat Strahd, and then Strahd will come back eventually, because he can't really die because the dark powers won't let him. So I thought that was weird that they didn't have stats. So you might have to make up your own, or maybe there's something in the book that really details how it works. Like you're attacking them this way or something. I don't know. So,
interesting.
But I could be wrong. But anyway,
can you shut down or destroy a domain of dread? Like, there's so many of them, but could you finalize it. Like make sure nobody else gets trapped in that domain.
I don't know. And that would be a fun quest, And maybe that's how you actually take out these Dark Lords. It's a quest to actually undermine their power rather than just attack them. Because attacking them will never work. And maybe that's their plan. So I don't know. But D&D is such a combat-focused game. I feel like there should be like that, but I don't know. And then you can't do your cool Mega Man thing where your players are now at the end of the campaign, they're 20th level, and 5 Dark Lords at once come and attack them. Because you have to go battle all of the old bosses before you can get to Sigma. Anyway, that would be cool. But
that'd be fun.
It'd be fun.
So definitely go out and get it. I just wanted to mention too, for you Gen Con goers, I had badges. May 16th was the last day you could make your choice to roll it over. So if that's happening,
tomorrow,
make sure you do. You don't want to lose out on that. And also I had a Ptolus arrive, so I definitely want to show off a big old Ptolus.
Oh my gosh!
Look at this monster.
That's 700 pages of cool.
Yeah, it is 5e edition. I've got the PDF for both versions, the Cypher version and the 5e version. And
but you got the 5e version in print only.
Enormous. This is the print only for 5e. I didn't want 2 of these.
Yeah, that's a bit much, but
it's a big. Artwork looks fantastic. It always is in a Monty Cook game. But here, I know you're building like your own campaign world, right?
Trying, yeah.
So I was thinking, well, I bet in Jordan's world, because he's really good at doing this kind of stuff, I bet he had a little handout of little different places like the Delver's Square.
That's cool.
That tells you about all the kind of cool stuff you can do. And I bet in your campaign, you're going to give them a nice world map.
I do want to get a map.
And then maybe like a little coastal map that makes it a little easier to find out what's going on. And I know in your campaign world, you're going to put some of the houses that they might go to, inns or things, and talk about little cool stuff. The Rose Gate, one for the player, one for the GM. I bet some of your towns will have newspapers.
Oh, the Arcane Times, yeah.
So you can have the Midtown Partisan that tells you about, things that are going on. How about you're going to give them a calendar so they know how your year works, right? You got to know how that works.
Yeah, so this was his own. Yeah, it's his own crazy world. That's cool.
Yeah, the special days. Some more adventure maps. Oh, here's a good one. This one you'll have. How about you like random encounter tables, right? You would make those for yours.
I love them.
Would you make random encounter tables that are? Look at this monster.
That's cool.
That's only page 1. Here's page 2.
No, and it's nice that they're separate. I hope they're in the book too, but I love that they're a handout that you can keep
page
separately
3.
and just roll. So
page 4. This is how big this thing is. 5 and 6. Oh my god. Then you get the city map of Ptolus, because the whole campaign is about a large city. The idea of playing in Ptolus was you were going to play inside a very large city, and what would that be like as a campaign in Dungeons and Dragons? Got some places for some notes.
And this was his 3rd edition game. And I saw an interview with him. I guess Chris Perkins played in this. He was one of his main players. Yeah.
That's super cool.
And because they got Chris Perkins to be on a stream where he was announcing, Monty Cook was announcing Ptolus, and that they're going to bring it for 5th edition. And so they had a round table of the old players, which were all these old, not old in the elderly sense, but people that worked at Wizards back in 3rd edition who are let's just talk about this now. So really cool.
He put in, I think you should do this too. How about a character sheet for your players that is stylized in your artwork for your campaign Endigar? So got some of those. There's so much more in here. There's menus, wanted posters. You want some of those?
Yeah.
You want proclamations about the laws?
Monty Cook.
Know. You have to show your papers when you go through the gate. So here's your Imperial identification papers that you have with you. And can be forged. How about what kind of food do you want? You getting hungry yet? Soups and poultry and fish and cold plates. So he has lots of that stuff, and then he has a mega map that he gives you, which is even this map of the town is enormous. It unfolds and it turns into it. I'm not even going to do it because it's too big. But wow, if you're putting a campaign world together and that's just the handouts that you add in.
Yeah, there's an envelope in the back that has handouts. Monty Cook, he loves his handouts because Invisible Sun had that too, where there were business cards for people in Invisible Sun, and there were menus and all kinds of props. And then they came out with a prop kit too for Invisible Sun, because I think he just likes props. And I don't know, who doesn't like a cool physical object you can hand the player? Like, I love that.
So very cool. I wouldn't say there's a few things in here for players, but this is like a lore person's Bible. This is like the
probably monsters and stuff too.
Encyclopedia of this world, how to play in it, how he built it. You know, he talks about coming back to revising it and reviving it, and some of the things and emotions it brought up, you know, coming back to it after so many years. I think it's a very interesting, I can't wait. I definitely have not even remotely got most of the way through this yet. I want to read it cover to cover as a goal to say I did it.
You should also,
74 pages.
You should do a live stream of just answer questions and kind of flip through it. Maybe when you feel a little more comfortable, obviously. But if you save that, we'll upload it to the Saturday Morning D&D Show channel, because I think it's really cool. Like, I'm sad that I didn't back this now, because I remember thinking about it and I'm like, I don't know. But man, I love Monty Cook. Like, Invisible Sun is one of the coolest lore things that I've ever seen, and this would equally be really awesome. So, man.
So that was a Kickstarter that has completed. It was successful. If you're thinking, hey, where's mine? Remember, they give you the coupons in your email. You take those coupons, you go to their website, you use the coupons, and then that's how it gets shipped out there. So it's not like it's shipping like other Kickstarters where they already have your shipping info and they're just sending it out. Yeah.
They do it through their business.
Go to their website, and then it sends it out to you. So definitely that.
Now I'm having problems.
Uh-oh.
Stream health is going down. Sorry, guys.
No, hang in there, guys. If it goes totally down, Twitch is up, so we should be good there.
Yeah.
What's chat saying here? Reports are there are no stats for the Bagman either. Yes, we want an Endergar tourism guide is what I'm hearing over.
Oh man.
Here, so
yeah. So I guess let's jump ahead. So I've been thinking a lot about Endergar, and for those of you who are new to the podcast, that is my homebrew setting that I've never played in. So for the month of December in 2020, I tried to do I found a couple of online guides that were allowing me to go through and kind of build a world. And it was more from a fantasy novel sense of build a world and then start writing your story. But I used
every
that
day
to build...
you had a goal, right?
Yeah, I had a goal every day. And then by the end of the 30 days, you really get it fleshed out. Oh, that's cool. And I've been wanting to do a stream in the evening where I just answer questions about Endergar. And if I don't know the answer, then we come up with it together, kind of a thing. Because I thought that would be a lot of fun. But I'm at a crossroads now because, we're vaccinated. The CDC just straight up said, if you are with other vaccinated people, you don't have to wear masks and things like that. Yeah, I cleaned up my game room. Yeah. So now I have a table that's accessible. I was actually going to go to Lowe's, and I was thinking about getting a sheet of plexiglass that covers the entire table so I can just draw anywhere. I thought that would be kind of fun. So we're definitely getting back into I want to play games.
Right.
Now, what do I want to run? And that's the problem. So then I was going to show this off. You got something in the mail. I got something in the mail. I bought Dark Sun.
Ooh.
This is the second edition box set, but it's a reprint from Drive-Thru-RPG. But these reprints are nice. This is soft cover, but this is nice.
Sometimes soft covers are nicer books to have if you're going to be referencing
at the table, kind of, yeah. Because I can do all. Yeah, I just feel like I can flip through this a lot easier.
Yeah.
So this is Dark Sun. It's really cool. So I got this both for lore purposes, but then as I was reading it, I'm like, man, I want to run a Dark Sun game.
Now I want to run.
So that would be really cool. And then I bought second edition Planescape campaign setting. Strictly again for lore and just to have on the shelf. But man, there's a City of Doors.
Yeah,
It's
go
too
to the
bright.
front of that. Who are the writers listed on that? Because I'm sure it's Monty Cook and
he's
gotta
in
be
here,
Bruce,
yeah.
Monty, and who are the people they're mentioning there for that?
Zeb Cook.
Zeb, that makes sense.
He's the designer. So David Zeb Cook was the designer. I don't think Monty is on the core box set, which is what this is. This is the campaign setting. But I know he did some other books for it specifically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is, and the art from this book is really cool. And then finally, I got a 4th edition book as a soft cover.
Wow.
And this is Menzo Berenzon's City of Intrigue. So I want to run a all drow Menzo Berenzon game.
Ooh.
Where every character has to be a drow, but like you can be whatever class you want. We just have to make it work, and then have them be part of the various houses and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the adventure is all in the Underdark, not necessarily in Menzo Berenzon, but it could be. I don't know where the adventure would take us, but this is a really cool resource if you want to run a Menzo Berenzon game, because then it has all the drow houses. It's a little outdated because it's 4th edition, but the drow houses really haven't changed that much. And then you go and you pick them up. So I have some friends that are like, I want to play in that. Like, that sounds really cool. And that's my dilemma. Do I run a 5th edition all drow game that I kind of want to run? Do I run a Endegar game that I also want to run? And then last night I was working on my modular D6 game that I have not even really play tested with actual people yet. I was like, or do I do that? And because of YouTube, my new job, and the baby, I only have time for probably one night a week of games. Right. So what do I do?
Sun. You play Invisible Sun is what I'm hearing.
Oh, and then I have Invisible Sun that I want to play.
Because you bought that big, cool box set.
Not only did I buy the giant box, I bought many of this expansions. The only expansion I don't have physically is the Nightside book, which is kind of like the opposite end of stuff.
I want to see that hand on your table for a live play. Yeah. And you go, that thing is sweet. Come on.
No, it's so cool. It's over there. It's I've got my little invisible sunshine.
I almost think of it as the hand of Vecna in some ways.
It does, yeah. It's got 6 fingers, but it's actually called the Testament of the Suns. Yes. Is its official name.
So good.
I did put out a plea to some of them, not a plea, but I was like, hey, friends, who wants to play this? And I kind of handpicked some people that I think would enjoy Invisible Sun. And they all said yes, but we haven't really coordinated a time to do it. But that's another one I want to run really, really bad. I'm running Numenera right now, which is like check mark off the list. I wanted to get through some of these games that I bought that I've never played. And so I'm excited that I'm having fun with that. But boy, I miss the days when I was running, like I was playing in 2 campaigns and I was running 2 a week. And it was like 4 nights a week I was doing D&D. That was fun.
Yeah.
So
I was able to do that back, like you just said, you had mentioned, but both of our lives kind of changed last year.
Yeah.
Job changes, family changes, things. My job changed. My brain learning financial software I can play in a game. I had to stop running the games I was playing or looking at new games because I was spending all my time learning the new software, or I just also have gotten promoted. So now I have 2 jobs I'm kind of juggling. I can't wait if I can get through these couple months where I'm not juggling 2 things can settle down. And I can devote my brain to looking at other systems again, because that'll be great. I want to get back to that. But it's just been tough. This year's been a tough. I haven't been able to do a lot of extra stuff. If you talked to me in 2017 or 2018, 2019, I was playing like 3 games a night. I was running stuff on the weekend. I was going to all the like it was gaming all the time for those years. But this year it's been kicked back a little bit, let real life do some of that stuff. But I can't wait to get back to that. I think I would love to see you running some Invisible Sun, just because it's a game you don't see often. Mm-hmm. It's a big, cool Monty Cook set of weirdness that we just need in our lives. Yeah. But I'd also love to see an Endegar showcase that Endegar. You put a lot of work into it. You put a lot of 30 days into it.
And the thing is, like, Endegar's not going to grow unless I do play in it. Yeah. And so that's really the next step.
I like that.
And I want to do modular D6 with Endegar. But at the same time, I'm like, I really just want to focus on like how those work, the mechanically, before I start putting a whole campaign setting around it. Yeah. So that could be something later on, but I think I need to play Endegar in a 5th edition sense. So much to do.
I kind of ran into that problem that you're talking about too. Like I've been writing some stories that trying to just practice writing. And the idea was I was building a story about somebody who played a video game. And the video game is about one thing too. So like the story, to make the story work, I had to invent the game they're playing. But then I also had to invent the rules of the outside world too that they were a part of. So it was almost like doing two things at once, where you're saying the campaign I'm inventing at one thing, but I'm also inventing the rule set we're going to use to make that happen. That's two things at once. Maybe that's too try to
I
was running into a little bit of that too, where like, oh, I got to build this and this at the same time if I'm going to try to write this story the way I want to write it. And I was like, oh, it's a lot to it. But I think if you push through and you get through those things, it'll be interesting and fun, and you'll learn something out of it, even if it works or fails or whatever. The next time you do it, it'll just be that much better, that much more prepared. And I think it'd be cool for us to see what Endegar looks like. What makes it separate from Eberron?
Yeah, and that's hard.
Realms.
That's hard, you know?
Yeah.
Because, so Wildmount, I think, is a perfect example. Like, Wildmount is a very cool system. It's a very cool world, and, like, Matt's world is awesome and things like that. But when I played in it, I did not think, like, it was another Forgotten Realms. Like, there are little subtle differences where the drow are on the surface, and you're like, okay, cool, but, like, what makes it different? And Eberron feels very different from a Forgotten Realms game.
Dark Sun,
very different. Planescape, very different, because it's all about going to different worlds. But and so I'm not saying Critical Role is bad or anything like that. I just felt like Matt didn't have a huge what's the word I want to use? Matt Mercer, I think when he was playing in his Wildmount campaign setting, it was just like, I just want to do a fun world where I can do things in. And then it blossomed into, oh man, everyone's paying attention to me now, kind of a thing. So he has interesting factions and things like that, but it doesn't necessarily feel that different from the factions of another game, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So the high magic of Forgotten Realms is really that feel. So you're going to get that. It's not a low magic setting. It's not a weird alien setting. It's not a sci-fi mixed sci-fantasy setting. And I think that's where you get Dark Sun stands out. Strahd, that stuff stands out because it's the horror stuff. And then I feel like what Forgotten Realms is, and I love it, even though I'm going to say this, it's like the milk toast, or it's like the standard or the base, and everything deviates from it.
In a way. And Greyhawk was the same way, where it was just kind of like European, just generic
high fantasy.
Yeah, high fantasy.
High magic fantasy.
But you're right. Like, when you build a campaign setting, like, where's the twist? Why play in this rather than this? Rather than just like, I mean, you could say, like, I want to play in the He-Man universe because I like that universe. And it's like, okay, like, let's have a He-Man D&D game. But it's still going to kind of feel like Greyhawk, Forgotten Realmsy. And so you have to have those things where, Spelljammer is really different because it's in space. And they made all these new equations of, like, how spells work in space. And the phlogiston and all this other stuff. And, Planescape is kind of similar, where you're, like, going through these weird gated towns to get to the plane of law, where your chaotic buddy is not having a good time because he feels the law oppression on his body, but, like, your lawful person is doing great here. And so I don't know, it really is interesting because, and that's hard, I guess, is what I'm getting to. Eberron did a really great job of, like, it's not a living world. It is just, you're playing an Eberron game 2 years after the war ended. What does that mean? And you have all of these weird, like, warforged things that were made for war that are now like, what do we do? Like, how long are we going to live? You know?
Well, and its hook is that magic science.
Yeah, and magic science. Yeah,
it's that's what makes it really stand out. You have lightning rails stuff, and I think that just that gives you that steampunk to me is what I always thought. It wasn't quite steampunk, but it was moving in that direction of a steampunk style game.
Well, and maybe like Hot Springs Island is a good example too, because Shazama said, you don't need a twist, you just need an interesting place with cool lore behind it. And I agree, because Hot Springs Island had a really rich backstory. And then your players are just exploring and they're like, what in the world? And so like the fire salamanders are fighting the orcs and like, what? And like some mysterious god is literally beaching whales every other day so that the orcs can like carve up the whales and have something to eat. And it's like, why is this deity doing that? Like, it makes no sense. And so there's this conflict that you're then thrown in the middle of. And one of the reasons that a lot of reasons I loved that, but like, my players could have easily chosen the side of the fire salamanders and then led a rebellion against these vicious orcs that just keep attacking them. But like, they decided they met the orcs first and sided with the orcs. And so that was fun. Like, it was really interesting.
Yeah. So those are my votes for if you free up a night somehow in your super busy schedule. Yeah. And
you know what I want to do? I should make I should get into Roll20 and can you build character sheets in Roll20? Because that would be cool if I could build a modular D6 character sheet and then players could like play with that way. So because then I could run you through it. That'd be fun.
There's not an easy way to build character sheets in there, and I wish there was. That's the one thing, the one tool out there that I would love to see is something that makes building character sheets easier, and not just the graphical design of them is not what I mean, but the graphical design combined with the mathematical mechanics that add the bonuses when certain things are selected or certain things are added, just like you get in a Roll20 character sheet or you get in a D&D Beyond character sheet. But I want a tool that lets me graphically set the places, and then I want to be able to click on that and say, here's how the math should work for this, and here's how the things that work. Here's my database of things that are the rules that this thing is going to follow. And I want it to be very WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. I don't want to be writing code lines to get all to that, because I know that's what they have now, but we don't have just a nice visual drag and drop, move stuff around, make the look of it, and then go in and start making the mathematics that build behind it. That would be awesome. But I mean, somebody who does that kind of stuff, so maybe.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe he could tell you a way to do it.
But like modular D6 is just D6s, so we could easily hand write it, kind of a thing. So
well, you might I don't know. I think
that's another thing I want to do is I know people like you would be way more interested in testing that game than a lot of my friends in town here. And
they want to play.
I want to grab, and Lex. So spoiler, we're gonna have Lex from Dank Dungeons on the show next week, and he's gonna talk about his game that he created called a Zag, and we're gonna talk about that and just like creating OSR style games. But I was in his playtest, and we didn't even have character sheets. Like, it was just like, just open a Google Doc and kind of like write down what you have, and that's what we did. And we played and we just rolled dice and it was fun. So I don't know, maybe that's what I need to do for that, and then have like, a night of that, and then we get a bunch of interesting feedback, and then I revise it, and then a month later we do it again or something like that.
So. Well, I think also from a design standpoint, the character sheet can be a cornerstone to help you understand your game.
100%.
Because it helps you understand the parts and the pieces that are happening. And it's the piece that the players interact with, right? It's the piece that they have to understand this, and the rules have to make sense on this piece of paper, or the whole thing falls apart. Because if they can't make their own character, or they can't understand what they can do or how to do it, that was always the problem back in the day when I tried to learn Dungeons & Dragons in the first place, and I was, a 10-year-old kid. I didn't understand all the math or the weird rules or all the stuff that was going on, so we weren't quite doing it. But once you understood that character sheet, you could say you knew how to play Dungeons & Dragons. You finally knew. what all those skills meant, what all the bonuses meant, where all the roles were coming from, how you got to those roles. When you felt like you understood that character sheet in depth, you understood the game. So I think if somebody's designing a game like you are, if you understand that character sheet, you're going to understand your game even better than from any other standpoint, I think. So I think it'd be cool. I think that's fun, and it's an idea. There are only certain types of people, like you pointed out, that are interested in those kinds of things. Not your whole party. Some just want to play that game on Tuesday night, and that's all they want to play, and they want you to run that game. They don't want you to play other stuff. They don't want other systems. They don't want to learn anything new. They just want to, swing their big great sword and have fun and go home.
Which I was like really excited to play in Lex's game because I'm curious about game design. So you kind of need to find those people,
Yeah.
Like we had Celeste on the show, and she's like, I made all of this 5th edition stuff, and I really wanted somebody else to run it for me so I could play with these toys that I created. And I was like, oh yeah, I never, it's kind of interesting, but yeah. So, well, I mean, we've got a little bit of time left. Let's talk about your Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I haven't played any games because I've just been working and stuff. So
that's what we've all been working. It's gotten busy for us, and summer's coming, so we want to get outside and do all those things. Yeah. But Dungeon of the Mad Mage Tuesday nights, our dungeon master from Down Under, Danimal, running a great game for us. We had a big battle where last week we talked about the guy walked in and all of your damage, whether it was magical or physical, didn't work. Like you could hit him all day long and it didn't work. And we finally found out that it was an item that he was wearing that has this special property that while it's in this area, this one area only, you are immune to all damage. So it was like this crazy thing you had to figure out how to get around. And I think that was an interesting way to make our players think of something else because we're a heavy damage group. So all of a sudden, if you take that away, we have to come up with a different way to deal with this person. And it was an interesting fun house part of the adventure. And I feel like we're getting close to a level up, and we're getting close to decide, do we go back up to level 6 and map it? Or do we finish 7 out and go down even further down to level 8, which could be very interesting too. Get down to some of the bigger level stuff.
I wonder if the design of Dungeon of the Mad Mage is that you were supposed to skip floors.
Oh, I don't know yet.
The idea is just like, oh, sweet, we got forward, or maybe if you went to 7, then you would be able to skip to 10 or something. There's little secrets like that.
There are gates throughout that Hallister has built within, and you can find them. And if you're brave enough to go through them, you can end up somewhere else in this Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are on different levels, and sometimes they're, so there is that capacity to get in over your head if you wish. And there's a lot of mechanics to it without spoiling a little too much. There's these magical arches.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too that it's also a dungeon that can evolve because Hallister purposely has the powerful magic enough to make that kind of thing happen. So the levels could, if you were a dungeon master, could change layouts and could change things going through it, and you have a perfectly legitimate reason on why that's happening because of the influence of the Mad Mage Hallister and the powers that he has. You're talking beyond 9th level spell power at that point with Hallister. So it's very interesting. We're still having a ton of fun. Our players are excited to see what level they get to. We did just come up into an interesting part. I don't know if any of your parties or you've had this problem. When you've attuned as much as you can, but you're slowly accumulating other things, and now you're having the struggle of what do I attune and what do I not attune?
Which is a good struggle to have, I think, because, if you're just coughing up magic items by the end of your game, it's a little hard, but there's been a couple where my DM or I've been a DM where I've handed it out and they're just like, oh, attunement slots. And I was like, oh, you don't have, that's not an attunement. Because I want you to have that cool item. So just take it and we'll say that.
I think our Dungeon Master's doing that. I think Danimal's doing that too, because he made my bow, which is a cool bow. And I was like, oh, do I got to attune to that? Because now I can't use my cloak and my boots and my gauntlets. He's like, no, that one's not attuned.
Just take it.
But that is the funny thing. We talked about this last week, and I'll mention it again just before we shut down. I have a stat beast character right now who has the gauntlets of ogre strength, 19 strength. I have a parapet of wisdom, 19 wisdom. I have a so it's wisdom's at 19.
Band of intellect or something, and
I already have a 20 dex because that's where all my points went into. And then the amulet of health.
Oh, okay.
So my con just hit 19. So I'm like, I only have 2 more stats that if I can get them to 19s, I'll have all 19 somehow. And now that's my new goal. Just for, for
that that would be a really funny villain who is just a regular guy that found a circlet of intelligence and all this other stuff, and so now they're running around doing crazy things. But when you actually defeat him and take those off, he's like, "Oh, I'm just back to my 8s.
I'm back to 10s
or my 6 or whatever."
Yeah,
it's like
minus ones.
Oh man,
this sucks.
I like that a lot. Thank you guys so much for coming out. This was a fun show. Like I said, next week we're going to have Lex on from Dank Dungeons. We're going to talk about his game. Probably it's going to be a fun show, but Lucien will get to ask all of those hard-hitting questions that he's been wanting to ask about.
And
Azag.
We're going to spoil. We might have 2 guests in a row.
Yeah, so then the week after next week, so 2 weeks from now, we're going to have another guest, and that'll be a lot of fun. And we won't spoil that just yet, but no.
Keep an eye on Twitter. We'll start telling everybody and piping it up.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It'd be cool to have Lex back and possibly another special guest, which would be fun.
Exactly. So tell everybody about how cool the show is and let all that stuff. You know the drill. We're really excited. And thanks for subscribing to Jordan's Jocular Junction, my second YouTube channel that I've been doing. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is really cool. And I've got a lot more OSR, indie RPGs, and Dungeon Crawl Classics content for that. So go ahead and take a drink, Mr. Danimal. Anyway, we will be back next week with a very special Saturday morning D&D show. We'll see you guys all then. Take care. Bye. Stay safe and happy. Bye.